From each happily ever after, every wish upon a star. Let's break down the movies that shaped who we are. From memory lane to now and everything in between. The most famous of films to the ones we've never seen. Decade by decade, all the times we laughed and cried. And with a little pixie dust, they will all take flight. Reliving the feelings, and we're trying our very best. And if they mean the same to you, please be our guest. So hop aboard, we would love to have you as we hang with a certain mouth, the whole gang too. If you love nostalgia stuff, we hope this does the trick. Thanks for joining us as we deep dive the magic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Diving the Magic podcast. I'm KJ.
And I'm Jeffrey, and we're back again with the 41st Disney feature-length film from March 19th, 1959. It is a film called The Shaggy Dog. Now, before we dive too deep, would you like to start us off with a synopsis and maybe some opening thoughts?
Yeah. So, I think I might have seen the remake. I don't think I've ever seen the original of this movie.
Yeah.
So I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to feel about it before we started watching it. But basically, it is about a teenage boy who is cursed with periodically turning into a sheepdog.
There's a lot more to this film than just that synopsis.
That is what the synopsis gave us,
Some
though.
more deeper than others, but
That is true.
so it is a live action film. There's a black and white version of it. It's also famous Mouseketeer Annette Funicello's first credited movie role. And obviously there's a lot of parts in this film that have to do with like have a dog in it, which I'm sure that you'll talk about. But they had to write the dialogue to fit the mouth movements of the dog, but that was pretty funny. They have to to make sure they gave the dog beef jerky. It's also Disney's most financially successful film of the 1950s, which is kind of interesting to think about. But do you have any more opening facts before we dive into it?
Yeah, like you said, it was the highest grossing film. It was only exceeded by Ben-Hur in 1959, and I have also never seen that.
That's a classic. Not Disney.
Yeah, I have never seen that. And then it talked about how it also surpassed search classics such as Billy Wilder's Some Like It Hot, Pillow Talk, and Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest. So, I mean,
it was successful. It was a good family film.
I actually liked it a lot more than I thought I was going into it.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll get there.
Yep.
Anything else before we dive in?
Supposedly, the film is often felt to have been dated badly due to its Cold War propaganda. So that is a thing. And then I guess Disney first bought the rights to the novel in 1941, and then obviously it didn't come out till 1959.
1959. So they knew that they were going to win the highest grossing of that.
I guess.
So you ready to go ahead and get into the film?
Yeah, it's the first live action comedy feature, so by Walt Disney.
That makes sense.
I guess that's another reason why I probably liked it more than I thought I was going to.
That's right. So we start off with the opening credits. The version that we watched is in black and white, and we see a Shaggy dog, in like the opening credits, kind of walking around while the credits roll. There's a song about a Shaggy dog that's playing. There is a voiceover that says, "This is the shaggiest dog story." That's how it starts off. This is the shaggiest dog story. We start off. We meet Wilson Daniels, a man who loves people but hates dogs.
But I think it's mainly because he thinks he's allergic to them.
Well, he also is a postman, and postmen are notorious for not liking dogs and vice versa. But yeah, so
every time one comes around him, he starts to like itch and stuff.
Yeah, because he hates them so much. So he hates dogs. He is not a fan of pups at all. So he's reading the newspaper, and he's talking about how he doesn't like dogs. And this is where we learn that he's a retired mailman, which is a noble career they keep talking about. And he has two sons that are in the basement. We meet the two sons. There's the younger one, his name is Moochie, and the older one's name is Wilby, who are actually both the boys from Old Yeller.
Yeah.
They just
So they just popped over from Old Yeller straight into this film
yeah,
together.
they're like, oh, these kids like dogs. So
No Fess Parker though, sorry.
yeah, so the kids are in the basement, causing mischief. They they build a missile interceptor, and then but they're playing with the missile, and the kind of missile goes up in it. They have to evacuate the house because the missile goes up and it blows a hole in the roof. So we know right from the beginning that these kids are trouble.
I guess.
So the missile goes up, the rocket goes up, it goes up into the sky, which causes the dad to be obviously upset, and he makes the boys fix the roof, and he tells Wilby, the older son, that he has to get rid of all his mechanical stuff in the basement.
So when we were watching this, because of it being shot in black and white, and then like the comedy aspect of it, I guess,
It
I
reminded you
kept
of Leave It to Beaver.
no, I kept feeling like I was watching I Love Lucy.
No, it's very Leave It to Beaver. But yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So then while the boys are up there, we meet a boy named Buzz who comes in his convertible with his girlfriend Allison, and they're trying to talk to Wilby. Wilby keeps thinking that he's going to try to borrow more money from him because he's borrowed money from him in the past. I think it was like $7 or whatever.
Yeah, I
And
think he does seem to be that
I
for
did
him.
not look up how much that would be today. But normally I do. So Buzz is kind of a pain. But then while they're talking and where Allison's sitting in the car, we see a convertible pass by with a pretty foreign girl and a shaggy dog in the back seat. Excuse me. So then we see we cut to in the house, and Wilson and his wife Frida, the mom and the dad, are spying on the new neighbors, and Wilson gets very upset that they're bringing a dog into the neighborhood because he hates dogs.
And guess who wants one?
Oh, we'll get there.
The kid that always wants one.
That's right.
In every movie he ever plays.
So then after we see that the convertible's going next door across the street because the new family's coming in with the pretty foreign girl and the dog. But the dog comes over and he jumps up on Wilby and he's very friendly and he's very loving to Wilby. But then in the meantime, Buzz's date is very jealous and like leaves. Allison's like, I'm over this. They're taking too long. So then we meet Francesca, who is the foreign girl that's moving in across the street. She comes from a very rich family. Looks like her house is like a museum, and we learn that she speaks 7 different languages. Her father or stepfather, they kind of refer to it as a couple different things throughout the film, but we realize that he's like a museum guy. He's like a curator, and they have all these kind of artifacts throughout their house. And while they go into the house with the two boys go into the house with Francesca, Wilby almost knocks over an artifact that Francesca says it cost them $4,000. I did look this one up. I don't know what the exact year of this film was, but what year it was based out of. But if it was released in 1959, so $4,000 in 1959 equals $43,000 today. So that's an expensive artifact that he almost knocks over.
Yeah.
So like I said, that they're in Francesca's house to return the dog, and the sheepdog just keeps jumping on Wilby, jumping on him on the couch, jumping on him, like just lovingly on him. But then Buzz sees a picture kind of just waiting to be hung in the living room, and it's a picture of what they say is the Borzas from the Dark Ages of Italy. And Francesca tells him a story about how they are known to have dabbled in black magic and stuff, and just like the occult. And Wilby, but in the picture, Wilby sees that there's a unique dog that looks exactly like Francesca's dog that keeps jumping on him. And we learn that breed has mostly died out by now. I don't remember what that dog's name was. Did you write it down? It'll come up later, but
no. But I think she said there was only a few of that specific dog breed left.
yeah. So it's kind of creepy that this creepy black magic picture. There's the dog in the picture.
And they have this specific dog, I guess.
Yeah. So then the two boys start fighting over um they're fighting over who can bring Francesca to the museum. So they decide to all just go together.
Yeah.
So they walk into the museum, the three of them,
Yeah.
and we see some sculptures in some very precarious positions. Um, definitely a joke for the 50s. And kind of looks like that's it kind of looks like that scene from Spaceship Earth where like the animatronics are from like the Renaissance and they're like painting, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But then there's like a figure, a statue of like an older witch lady who begins to move, which scares Wilby. But as he walks up to it to see what's going on, he finds that like the museum's professor um was like moving it to work on it, and
Hmm.
like we learned that Wilby knows this gentleman from when he was on the paper route when his dad was a mailman.
Hmm.
But then the professor starts to tell Wilby about the Borzas again, who are the statues, and about like their black arts and their dark and like their darkness and their shape shifting and everything. So that's our second reference to that.
Hmm.
So while Wilby is quickly leaving that room, he trips over a display on like a display of more creepy things. And he
Jewelry.
yeah. Oh, well, what it was jewelry?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he trips over the display of jewelry, picks it up, apologizes, and then leaves. But in the meantime, the other two have returned to Francesca's home. They didn't wait for Wilby.
Yeah, which basically shows how bad of a boyfriend that Buzz is.
He's a bad friend, yeah.
Boyfriend, friend,
Mhm.
human being in general.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when there's kids named Buzz in movies. Home Alone, Toy Story. But we'll get there.
Buzz is not a kid in Toy Story.
um, so then we see that the the brothers, Moochie and Wilby, are cleaning up in the basement. They're cleaning up their lab. There's chemicals, there's turtles, there's a bunch of random stuff down there.
Hmm.
Um, then it's time for Moochie to go to bed. But Wilby, but on the time to like while Wilby's like finishing up what he's doing before he goes up to bed too, he bends down to clean up more, and he finds like an old ring. Well, actually, this makes sense. An old ring or a diamond or whatever. It's like in the cuff of his pants. Then he thinks it's from like the display, like the museum display.
Good thought, Wilby.
I mean, it makes sense. Excuse me. Um, there's Latin writing on it. I don't remember what the actual Latin phrasing was. I don't know if you wrote it down, but it
No, because I didn't want to risk saying.
well, I'll say it. So
Go ahead.
it translate into it. I don't know what the actual phrasing was, but it translates into a dog body I change. I might just start changing. Um, and
I
he's
always wanted another dog.
and he's we don't have enough room.
Our house is too little. I'm gonna have to get
So
rid of you.
he starts to and he starts to like read it over and over again because he took Latin in school. He's like turning it into a rhyme, and then suddenly, shocking, he begins to transform his appearance into the Shaggy Dog. He has like all the Shaggy Dog features. Um, and he's very fastly progressing into a dog. But at the same time, we see that Francesca's house, their dog disappears.
Hmm.
So clearly, there can only be one.
That girl may be one.
There can only be one.
I thought you said
Uh,
that girl may be one. I
uh,
was like,
no,
she may be one. What?
no, there can only be one. So, so they're like, what's going on? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like he's like, oh my God, I'm turning into a dog.
Yeah.
But Wilby's biggest concern is that his dad's gonna kill him because his dad hates dogs. And so now that he's completely a dog, he jumps out the window and he goes to try to find the professor. He better hope that the dog catchers from the Lady and the Tramp aren't in the neighborhood because they have a pretty good track record of dogs without collars. But
Yeah.
so he goes and he speaks to the professor who's still working at the museum, of course. Um, and I thought it was funny because the professor is very much not concerned that he's just like talking to a dog. I think I would be very shocked if I was like speaking to a dog. And the professor's just like holding a normal conversation. He's not shocked at all. He mentions that Wilby must be a shapeshifter now, and that the professor has always been looking for that ring, which means that the ring did not come from him knocking over the display. I think it came from when the Francesca's dog was lovingly jumping on him
Maybe
because he didn't want to be a dog anymore.
because he didn't.
Well, clearly, I mean, not to get too far ahead,
Okay.
but that's what so. But then he also tells Wilby that heroism can break the spell, which is shocking that he knows that. But hey, he knows the dark arts. So on Wilby's walk home, now a dog, he stops and talks to a cop, who the cop thinks he's losing his mind, and he's hearing a dog talk, which is kind of more along the lines of how the professor should have acted in that scene when he just heard a dog talking, but the guy was just like okay with it. But
I thought that when Wilby first started talking to him, though, he was talking to him and the professor wasn't quite looking at him yet.
Mhm.
And then he looked at him and was like, "Oh."
yeah,
So I mean, yeah.
but this cop is totally taken off guard. Like he is like, oh my God, I'm losing it. I'm talking to a dog.
Yeah.
Um, so Wilby the dog goes into the bedroom. He wakes up Moochie, but Moochie thinks he's just dreaming because he wants a dog. He wants a dog in all the movies he's in, clearly. Wilby puts on his pajamas, brushes his teeth in a very adorable scene. Um, I mean, you like putting clothes on our dog, so do you think that?
I put clothes on her so she doesn't get cold.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's why. That's why you put clothes on her.
I do because she likes to wear them when it's cold.
So the next morning, the sun coming up, we see a dog that's walking around the neighborhood, a different dog, but once they get in front of the Wilson's house, he gets scared because he hates dogs. So Moochie then wakes up and tries to tell Wilby that he had the funniest dream that Wilby becoming a shaggy dog. But when he removes the covers, he discovers that there is a dog in Wilby's bed, and Moochie wants to keep the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't even care about his brother. He just wants to keep the dog because there's a dog in the bed. But then the dad's coming, so they decide that they're gonna hide him back under the covers. Because, like I said, the dad's coming. Moochie distracts his dad by playing the harmonica.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then while eating breakfast, Wilson starts to wonder, like, is there a dog nearby or a dog outside? Because he starts itching and his eyes get puffy, kind of like you said. Um, Wilson then begins to like accuse his wife of getting a dog because Moochie always wants one, and she's like, I didn't get a dog. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I love my son, but I didn't get a dog. And the dad's upset that like Wilby's not coming down for dinner or for breakfast and stuff too. Um, but at the same time, Wilby's hungry.
Mm-hmm.
He's a grown boy. He's a grown dog. He's hungry, and he decides that he's going to sneak down during breakfast to get some food. But the mother then discovers this because he's like stealing like bacon off of the counter
Mm-hmm.
and tries to like shoo the dog out the door before he gets killed by the dad. But then as like the old fashioned door like swings closed, um, from the dining room into the kitchen, Wilson thinks that he sees a dog and he's certain that his family's lying to him. So even though Moochie like begs him, he goes to the closet to get his shotgun. Like he's going from 0 to 100 really fast. Like he's going to get his shotgun. Well, I mean, he hates dogs. That's what he said.
Mm-hmm.
So Wilby the dog runs out of the house, fleeing the shotgun bullets while he's being chased. Wilson calls him a cowardly flea bag. But then while he's like out, a dog without a home, basically, he starts to smell bacon, and he goes to Francesca's house where the smell's coming from, to steal some breakfast. But then in Francesca's house, they just think that that's their dog, who um they've been wondering like where it is. It must have ran away, and they're very relieved that their pup comes back.
Hmm.
And then at the same time as this, we see like this is like the first time that we're like really learning about Francesca's family. There's like a caretaker slash like
Like a
um
butler. Yeah.
butler, but there's also a gentleman that comes to the door. Like he's a very nicely dressed but creepy kind of man named Thurman. That's all we learn about him at this point. He come in the door to talk to the dad or stepdad or whatever he is. Um, so they lock Wilby the dog in a room so that he can't escape again because they think that um it's their dog that got out. So, but at the same time, of course, perfect timing, Wilby becomes a boy again,
Hmm.
and then the Francesca family dog reappears where it last was, which was on the couch. So it's no longer locked in the room anymore. But Wilby's locked in the room. But he does then he breaks out of the room by prying the door open, which makes the butler think that the actual dog broke the door, even though it wasn't. Um, and then Wilby the human returns home while Moochie is like trying to find Wilby the dog in like the bushes and stuff, and is upset that he's not a dog anymore. Like he's upset to have his brother back. Gee, thanks, buddy. Um, but then so then the family's all having dinner, and they're discussing like an upcoming dance, and the mother discusses to Wilby about asking a girl to be his date. But then at the perfect timing, Buzz shows back up because that's what friends do. Buzz shows up to tell Wilby that he double booked himself for that dance with both his old date Allison and the new girl Francesca, and he wants Wilby to come along and like help him out, um, kind of like they did in Boy Meets World many years later.
Yeah.
So they want him to come and so that all four of them go to the dance together.
Hmm.
Because clearly Buzz is a player, but all four of them go in the convertible together to this dance.
Hmm.
Um, but as the night goes on, the ladies end up falling for Wilby, and they like fighting over who can actually dance with Wilby instead of Buzz, because Buzz is a horrible person. But then, because timing is perfect here, while dancing with Francesco, Wilby begins to again transform back into a dog. And at this scene, you chuckled out loud. That was pretty funny. I wrote that down. You chuckled out loud. But the family's at the dance as well. So that Moochie, I'm sorry, notices this, and he fights through like the dancing crowd to let Wilby know that he's becoming a dog again.
Yeah, I don't understand how all those people are like dancing around, passing their partners, and nobody notices this kid growing massive amounts of hair on his face and ears,
Maybe it was a masquerade.
and it was not a
Yeah.
masquerade. We were watching it,
Yeah.
and I was just like, this makes no sense.
So they hide Wilby the dog in the plants while he finishes his transformation. And again at the same time, they show that Francesca's pet disappears.
Yeah.
Um, a slow dance is happening, so Wilby decides that he's going to sneak out.
Hmm.
Now's his chance. His parents are dancing, like, um, so. But as he's sneaking out, Francesca spots him and again thinks it's her dog, whose name I don't remember. I should look that up. It was some
Yeah.
like fancy name, but
Yeah. I think it was like in another language.
yeah. So she thinks it's her dog, and she's concerned about why her dog is there. And at the same time, um, Wilson is upset that there's a dog there because he hates dogs. And then Buzz is upset that this dog is ruining his dates. So Buzz chases him out into the parking lot
Buzz deserves to have his date ruined.
by this adorable dog.
Yeah.
Um, so then Wilby, trying to cover his tracks, goes to a payphone as a dog and to call and ask his parents if he could spend the night at Buzz's to kind of keep his cover. But at the same time, that exact cop from earlier um, decides that he needs to he borrows some change to go make a phone call at the payphone, but then again thinks he's losing his mind because there's a dog in the payphone.
Hmm.
Um, we then see that Buzz is dropping off the two upset girls. They're both upset with him because he's two timing. But he does con his way into Francesca's house saying that he has a cut on his forehead and that he needs to be cleaned up. Go ahead.
Oh, Buzz. I don't know. I thought it
It works
was,
in The Shining.
yeah, I guess I thought it was funny that like at the dance they like keep swapping people and he's just trying to play it off
Uh-huh.
as that I'm not a bad guy or whatever. I'm trying to help my friend. And um she really likes him. Da, 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 da. And it's like, oh, she really likes him. Well, I'll try to help by making her jealous.
Yeah,
But then it all just like is backfiring on Buzz.
much deserved.
I agree. He
Um,
wasn't even attractive.
at that haircut.
It
But
wasn't even the haircut.
so we go into Francesca's house to clean him up, but they see that Wilby the dog is in the kitchen. But then Wilby hears as a dog again. He hears that Buzz is blaming the whole scheme on Wilby, and he sees that Buzz is trying to make a move on Francesca. So then Wilby kind of like,
Should be thinking when I turn back into a human, I'm not going to be his friend.
it's true, but he like kind of like attacks Buzz. Buzz and Wilby the dog, who again Francesca thinks is her dog, begin to fight. On and off the couch until Buzz is like, "All right, I get a hint. I'm leaving. Your dog
Someone's
doesn't
gonna
like
bother
me.
me.
Your dog doesn't like me." Yeah, please look that up. Your dog doesn't like me, so Buzz leaves.
Charmaine or something, I
Yeah, look.
think.
Yeah, look it up. It's something different than that. But um, so then Francesca brings Wilby the dog into her father's parlor for the night, so the dog can stop escaping. At the same time, that creepy, nice dressed guy from earlier arrives again to talk to the father, who I think is the stepfather, but they refer to him as different things. He refers to talk to the father about secret spy things. This is what you were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
and obtaining government information. So the movie has taken a turn. Um, so I was right earlier by thinking the guy was creepy when he came over earlier. Um, so Wilby the dog is able to escape the room, and then he uses the laundry chute to get down. And I have to tell you that for a family that really doesn't want their dog to escape, they sure make it easy for a dog to do so, especially one that knows how to use a ladder. So, um, the next morning, um, Wilson catches Moochie reading a book about training a dog. Like he's like reading a book about it, but he's got it described by a Scrooge McDuck comic book, which I thought was awesome. Did you pick that up? That it was a Scrooge McDuck comic book?
Yes, I think I also saw that in some of the trivia facts.
Yeah. So after, the dad's upset that he's reading this book, takes the book away from him, the dad goes inside, but then we see Wilby the dog runs up to Moochie and in front of their house, and he tells Moochie about Francesca's family spies, and he keeps talking about Section 32, Section 32, Section 32. Yeah, that's what it is. That's
Chiffon.
Chiffon. That's his dog's name, Chiffon. Um,
What did I call it?
I don't remember.
Charmaine.
Yeah, Chiffon. I mean, you were close. I think Charmaine is actually a lady's name, but
Well, maybe that I thought it was fancy.
Chiffon is pretty fancy. So,
Uh, and the way she said it in
yeah,
her
Chiffon.
multilingual accent.
So we're up to the part where, again, Wilby the dog is telling Moochie about the spies and Section 32, Section 32, Section 32.
Yeah.
So Moochie runs in to tell his father because his father's going to know what to do.
Yeah.
And um, he's going to tell him about the spies. But of course, as a parent of an imaginative child, he doesn't really believe him.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, you boys are exactly the same. Go blow a hole through my roof again with your rockets." So he doesn't believe him. So then Moochie's like, "You know what, Wilby, you have to go talk to him. Like,
Yeah.
um, he'll believe you. He's your dad, which is okay." So then Wilby the dog goes in to talk to his dad, but the dad's like reading the newspaper, so he doesn't really like see him. So he's just talking to him. But then they go to like shake on it after they like talk, and that's when the dad realizes that the paw that he's shaking is his son. So which
Mm.
causes Wilson to pass out.
On the bright side, he did try to
Well, he
shake.
passes out right away. He passes out. It's too much for him.
Yeah.
So then Moochie runs to the cops, but they also don't believe him because there's so much going on. There's a talking dog in town. Like they don't believe him.
Yeah.
And he mentions that his brother's a dog, so of course they're not going to believe him. So, um, but then
Poor Mooch.
the butler shows up to like take the dog, Wilby, who they think is Chiffon, back, who they think that keeps running away, to their house. Um, and Moochie runs into the house to like wake up their dad, and that yes, Wilby is indeed a dog. So at this point, the dad is believing this, but like they're in danger. Like he's been taken. So Wilson now believes that his son is a dog, and that they're spies because his sons wouldn't lie to him about that because
Seeing is
dude's a
believing.
dog.
You think if his son would have told him in human form that, that he would have believed him as much as he believed him, like obviously with
Yeah.
him being
Yeah. Hey, it worked out. Okay, so then he goes to the authorities. The dad's going to the authorities, but the authorities then begin to blink. Blink. I just missed the word believe and think. Blink.
believing.
So then the authorities begin to think that the dad is losing it. That Wilson's losing it. He's saying that his son is a dog. They don't take his claim seriously or any of that.
They
But
probably
then,
think he's had a psychotic break.
but then he brings up Section 32, and they instantly think that he's a spy because Section 32 is top secret.
And they want to know how he knows.
So they bring him to a psychiatrist because they're like, wait a second, how do you know this? Um,
I'm reading.
so then
Just kidding.
it hops back that Wilby, as a dog, is again locked in Francesca's house, but he overhears the spies again talking about stealing more government information, Section 32, all of this stuff.
hmm
But then, of course, because timing is perfect, at the exact same time, unfortunately, Wilby begins to turn back into a human. And he gets caught by the spies as a boy spying on them. So
hmm
he's a spy. Um, they tie him up and they lock him away because they don't know what's going on. So clearly things are getting stressful for them. There's people spying on them.
Yeah.
Um, the psychiatrist is trying to get information out of Wilson, but Wilson's like, talk to my son Moochie. He will tell you the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Moochie, who really just wants to protect his brother, when he gets interrogated, he just changes his whole entire story and just says that his father's just a storyteller because Moochie allows Moochie to leave the office to go protect his brother. So the tangled web just keeps getting weaved here.
Poor dad.
Yep.
That's what he gets for not letting them have a dog.
So then, hey, there you go. So then, we cut back to Francesca's house, and Francesca, like the stepdad and the nicely dressed guy and the butler, they're all stressed and they're all scheming how they're going to make this work for this heist and everything. But at the same time, Francesca shows up into the house to ask permission to go out with Buzz,
hmm
and they're like, "No, we're taking you with us to finish their plan," because they're just like they've been spied on. There's just too much going on.
We have to leave.
So they have to leave now, and they're taking Francesca with them. Um, so then, after being brought home by the authorities, Moochie then sees the spies and Francesca leave the house across the street. So he breaks into the house to check on his brother, who is still tied up as a human, um, that we think of. But then when Moochie finally finds him, he is once again turned into a dog. He's a tied up dog at this point.
Yeah.
And they take off running out of the house, and they run into Buzz, who's there trying to pick up
Allison or
Francesca. He's there trying to pick up Francesca, and they knock him over. And what happens? Well, Wilby the dog steals Buzz's convertible to try to go stop the spies. Can you imagine that license picture?
No.
So this dog is now driving the convertible.
I mean, he probably isn't smiling.
It's true. You're not supposed to smile on license forms.
Yeah.
Or wear your glasses.
Yeah.
So so the dog and Moochie are driving the convertible. But then as they're going by in the convertible, the cop from earlier sees a speeding car go by, driven by a dog. So again, the cop is like, I am losing my mind. Like I can't handle this anymore.
Yeah.
But then Buzz stops the cops to report that his car was stolen, and the cops pursue. Where am I? Sorry, I lost where I was. Buzz stops the cops to talk about how his car was stolen. So then the cops decided that they're going to pursue this stolen car, but at the same time, a very shaken up Wilson, who doesn't really know what's going on. He's got interrogated. His son, he was not wearing shoes. I remember they kept saying he wasn't wearing shoes. Um, he arrives, and then the boy, Buzz, forces Wilson to follow the police car in his car with Buzz. So the chase is on. So it's so the police car is chasing a car driven by a dog, which is which is in chase of a car driven by spies. This movie has become pretty convoluted, but so everybody's just chasing somebody else. So Wilson and Buzz are in one car that's chasing the cops, which is chasing a stolen car, which is chasing by a dog, which is chasing the spies. The cops calling backup while pursuing a large shaggy dog. They keep talking about a large shaggy dog. Everything's about a large shaggy dog. So the cops are calling it backup. But then the cops finally catch the dog car thief.
Mm-hmm.
But Wilby the dog bites the cop and then steals the cop car. Because, of course he does. So then he's that now the dog is in the cop car and they're in the stolen car.
Mm-hmm.
So the cop again
The borrowed car.
Yeah. The cops hop in the convertible to now pursue their own car in a very great locomotive chase kind of turn of events where they're chasing after their own thing,
Mm-hmm.
but not backwards like that one was.
Mm-hmm.
But then the spies notice that they're being followed, and the police, because this isn't convoluted enough, the police get pulled over by another set of police. But at the end, they're all just pursuing the same thing. Like they all just go after the same thing. The spies attempt to flee via a boat, but then Wilby the dog jumps onto the boat to wrestle with the spies.
Mm-hmm.
They must be like, what is going on? And that's our own dog, like
Chiffon.
But then Francesca stops the men from hurting the dog because again, she still thinks it's hers. This causes her to get knocked overboard in the tussle. So that she's in the water at night. So then Wilby the dog dives into the water after her to save her. This stunt acting dog deserves a bonus. I'll say that. But so the dog jumps in after her. I mean, our lovely pup won't even go in our backyard if the grass is wet from the sprinklers, and this dog is just jumping in the actual water.
Playing. She doesn't like to get sprayed with water.
I mean, she won't go in our pool either. But this dog is just
because she can't touch the bottom.
Did that dog could touch the bottom of his?
No, but all dogs are different.
So
Stop talking crap about our dog.
I'm not.
I hope she bites you.
That's rude.
It's not rude.
What if she's actually a person that got chiffon?
Well, she bit me today on my foot, so
yeah, well, there you go.
Trying to just pull my sock off.
So jumps in the water. At this point, all of the police and everybody shows up to the docks, and they're calling harbor police. They're trying to stop the boat, and around this time, Wilson, who gets out of the car, breaks his foot in the pursuit because he's not wearing shoes. So he must have gotten a tip from the So Dear to My Heart kids because they never wore shoes either. But Wilby the dog saves Francesca from the water just in time for Buzz to come and take all of the credit for the rescue. Um, but then Wilby the dog again attacks Buzz for stealing the credit.
Well, he should. I should.
But at the exact same time, the officers are arresting Wilson for being a spy. So there's just so much going on.
So, fast track. Wilson is always at the wrong place at the wrong time. And Wilby is always turning at the wrong
Yep.
place in the wrong time.
So speaking of that, perfect
The most
segue.
inopportune
Yep. Speaking of
times.
that, perfect segue. In the midst of all of this fight, Wilby then now is turning back into a human, and Francesca's real dog, Chiffon, comes back to like this thing. So here's Wilby fighting with his friend Buzz in human form,
Do you
and
think Buzz was like,
what just happened? Yeah.
happened?
Um,
Because it doesn't really show you that well.
nope. And then Francesca believes that her own dog, not the boys, saved her
her.
life. Because why wouldn't she?
She's terrible too.
So the next scene, we see newspaper headlines about how the dog
Yeah.
and everybody else was able to stop a spy ring. So clearly it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see more things about how Wilson, his love for dogs saved everything, which is ironic because clearly his
Yeah.
just changed like that, once he could become a hero. And
Well, he kind of went through a lot.
Wilby gets no credit for any of this. He's just a human again. He gets zero credit because they think it was Chiffon that saved the day, and Wilby gets no credit. So then the only people that are getting credit are Wilson, Moochie, and Francesca's dog Chiffon, who is now the Wilby's family dog because Francesca went back to France after her parents and whatever got arrested. And so now Moochie got his wish to get the dog. Wilson loves the animals now. And Wilby, the star of our show, gets zero credit. We also see at this time that Allison shows up with a different guy.
Yep.
Because that's what happens when guys act like dogs, pun intended. So
Jeffrey.
so the Shaggy dog wins the Valor Award, and Moochie finally gets a dog as the newspapers take more photos and the end credits roll. And this movie, I think this movie was fun. It was like a great romp. I don't know if I've ever seen it before.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that we watched it. But I would love to hear your ratings and your thoughts.
I love at the end how Allison gets into this other guy's car, which looks way better than the other two guys anyway. And they're like, oh, he's like, oh, do you know them? And she's like, oh, yeah, they're just the neighborhood kid.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you get what you get, buddies.
So what did you rate this?
So I rated it an 8 out of 10.
That's good. It was a good romp. Romp is a good way to describe this.
It
was convoluted, but it was fun.
It definitely was better than I thought it was going into
Do you
it.
think that the remake in a bunch of years from now, when we circle back, will be this high?
I don't know.
Remember this. Remember in 500 episodes, whenever we get there, let us know. So,
Yeah.
okay.
And IMDb gave it a 6.4 out of 10.
So, do you have any other thoughts besides that you liked it more, or would you like to jump to List Upon a Star? Speaking of your ratings.
I don't think I have any more thoughts. It was, like I said, better than I thought it was going to be. I enjoy dogs. Our dog is not really that bad.
No.
She's a handful, but she's not that bad.
Chiffon.
Could you imagine if like you got cursed and you turned into Faye?
I mean, it'd be awesome. I wouldn't have to go to work tomorrow.
Oh, gosh.
I would eat so much food. But so speaking of that, so
Okay.
does this romp make your List Upon a Star?
It does.
Well, where are we doing? What do we got?
So we're gonna lose Johnny Tremaine,
Our friend Johnny.
or Johnny, and we're gonna
Over Peter Pan.
we're gonna knock Peter Pan down. Sorry. It just blew your mind with us. And the shaggy dog is gonna just plop in there.
Okay, what do we got? Where are we?
So I have Sleeping Beauty, Dumbo, Lady and the Tramp, The Three Caballeros, The Shaggy Dog, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Fantasia, Saludos Amigos, and The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
So I also enjoyed this movie. It was very enjoyable. I would recommend watching it again. Like I would recommend, it's a very fun film.
Hmm
It's convoluted, it's
It was
wild,
pretty
it's
fast
fun.
paced.
Yo, yeah, I mean, they're all chasing after. So this is also going to make my list not quite as high as yours, but I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to read mine, which is my list upon a star is number one, Peter Pan. Number two, Alice in Wonderland. Three, Pinocchio. Four, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Five, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Six, Sleeping Beauty. Seven, Lady and the Tramp. Eight, The Three Caballeros. Nine, Cinderella. And rounding up at 10, our new friend, the Shaggy Dog. So, it was fun. I'm happy we watched it. I can't believe that you just knocked Peter Pan out of your top five. You're
I
wild.
did.
But, so,
I did.
speaking of fun, on our next episode,
Hmm
we are diving into another movie that I'm excited about watching.
Okay.
From a little bit later in the year 1959. It is a film that I'd love to know if anybody has ever heard of before, but it is called Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
I had never heard of it.
Have you heard of it before? Is what I was going to say. Is it a top 10 worthy? Join us next week to find out. But again, thank you as always for watching. Shoot us an email, deepdivingthemagicpod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram, Deep Dive in the Magic. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We would love to hear from you. We're tossing around an idea for some bonus episodes that are coming up that we're brainstorming, and I'm sure that you will love them as much as we have, that we're thinking they're going to be. So stay tuned for that. Thank you as always for Andy Has a Band for our theme song and your endless support. And thank you for putting up with me while I was coughing earlier while I had something stuck in my throat. But we'll see you next time for Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
All right. Thanks for deep diving the magic.
Bye.
Bye.